make sure I take all the tape off. When I do this, I wet down the cardboard as well. Once I do that with the cardboard, I wet it down. This just helps with the process a little bit more. And I make sure I wet down both sides of the cardboard. And again, if I have too much water, it will drain out. This is just helping the whole process out, speeding it up so I can plant faster. The cardboard will soak up the moisture. And the worms will love it. Now, some people like to put rocks in their wicking bed down by the drainage. I decided not to do that to save money, but I did put a few rocks in the second bin. But I prefer to use the sand. The sand is one of the better components for wicking, and so that's why I chose to use that. I'll also put some peat moss in here because peat moss is a great wicking medium to use as well. I'm gonna run and get my gloves. Now, what I did do is, as I showed you before, I bought my sand in bulk because it does get kind of expensive buying individual bags. But the delivery and trying to get the sand back to the backyard was a little bit rough. I had to use a wheelbarrow, and so this is where I'll put some of this peat moss in, and I also have some cocoa hair as well I'll put in. And again, it's like a lasagna. You're going to be layering this as you go along. Now, for some people, it probably doesn't take as long to do a wicking bed as it's taken me. But I had already a raised bed, and I have been having to dig out the soil, then create the areas where I'm going to be growing, and then I'll make sure it's aligned. I still will have to add more wood because the IBC totes are higher than the wood that I had. So I'm actually making this big bed bigger than what I had before. Now, do you have to wet it down as you go? No, you don't. But if you want to speed up the process, because what some people do is they'll wait a couple of days before they start to use their bed. But by watering it down initially with the cardboard that I'm putting in, that helps the process out, as I was mentioning earlier. So I will probably still spray this layer down of the peat moss. And again, it's all about making sure you have things that will wake up the moisture. And since I'm reusing my soil that I had before, I have it in crates around here that I've dug out so far. I have a lot of worms and a lot of life in that soil, so that life will be transported over in here. So having the cardboard, the worms love the cardboard, so that will help out quite a bit as well. You don't want your soil to get too wet. So that's one reason why you want to make sure you have the overflow piping on the other side. And you want it opposite side of where you're putting your water in. Okay. I have other means such as coffee to put in here. I do have some alpaca fertilizer to put in as well. So as I go up higher, I'll start putting more nutrients in. I also have some fertilizer I want to throw in here as well. I'll probably put in some vermiculite, and that just will help with the drainage and everything of the wicking bed. So give me a moment. I'm going to go and get some cocoa hair too. My goal is to get all 3 beds filled. So I don't want to put all of this in this bed, and I prefer to use my wheelbarrow, but it's filled with sand. So I might have to chop some of this off. This box here, let's see how much it covers, because when you wet it down you're going to get so much more. Let's see, up to 20 gallons. So it fills quite a bit of an area. I just didn't want to use as much, so hoping I could just use half of this bed. Let's see. And I'll definitely water this now as I put it in. Not that easy to break in, but we're getting some of it. I just have so much compost, and compost is really good for a wicking as well. And what I normally do is I'll just break it up all over, and then I'll water it down. Now these IBC totes have about roughly 275 gallons. So this particular one, since it's cut in half, it's just going to be half of that amount. And so two of these half beds combined will be the 275. So it's quite a bit that you have to fill. And because I have to do about 19 of them, I don't want to use all of my cocoa hair in one. Because it does add up depending on how many bits you're going to use. And so I try to use a little bit of everything. So using half of this roughly and then putting the other half on the other one, I think it's pretty good. Because like I said, I do have I got like 12 yards of compost because I'm doing so many. In addition to the soil that I've already dug up. I just want to make sure I have enough means for wicking, but also I didn't want the soil to be right next to the other, next to the water. So I'll spray this down a little bit. And then when I spray it down a little bit, I break up even more of the chunk. Now, because I have to dig up the rest of my garden that's over to the right, as you can see, as I slowly turn the camera, you see I have to dig all that up. I have onions and collards growing. There's 2 way down there that you see I have done already. But because I have to do that and I have to widen my old bed so these IBC totes can fit in, I am going to grab soil from over there to put here before I grab any soil that I've already gotten out. So I just break this up after I start wetting it down. Again, this is only to help get everything moist so I can plant a little bit sooner than later. I have so much work I need to do, and I have so many plants, I don't want them to start dying before I get things planted. So they've been having a tough time because it's been taking me so long to get everything done. So that's my goal, and why I want things moistened as I'm going along. And again, if I have too much water, it will go out the overflow. So as you can see, it starts really spreading out nicely. I'm breaking up all the different chunks. Trying to make sure I get the cornice good too. And again, this helps with the wicking as well. So anything you can do to put in that's going to help wick up the moisture, that helps quite a bit. Now, over to my far left, up on my hill, I do have a big pile of compost that you can see there, that I'm gonna go get some of that, fill a couple of buckets, and then I'll be back and I'll put some of that compost in here as well before I put my dirt in. Now, this compost doesn't have any manure in it. My other fill dirt does. So this is made of trees and dirt. And this is also another good wicking medium. When I finish putting everything down in here, another thing I'm going to want to do is make sure that I have mulch on top. You always want mulch on top because even though you have the water reservoir underneath, and the roots from the plants will feed from the water, the roots will look for the water down below. You want to put the mulch on because the water could still evaporate without the mulch. So this was just 2 buckets of mulch that I put in here just now. I'm gonna wet a little bit this down as well, again, because I want to be able to plant in here this weekend. Some people will wait 24 hours. to make sure everything wicks up and moistens. I just do it this way to speed up the process. One of my beds started growing mushrooms because it had moisture in it, which was a great sign to let me know that my vegetables were getting enough moisture to feed the roots. There we go. So that's enough water for that. Now I have dirt over there that I would like to fill, and it's gonna be a lot of work, so I'm gonna grab my shovel and start filling this with some dirt. And again, it saves me this step from having to fill up a tote and then get the dirt. I will also add some of the vermiculite as I go a little bit further up and for the drainage. And in addition to that, I'll add the alpaca when I get a little bit higher. So I'll start putting more nutrients in a little bit higher. And this has cow manure in it from last year. But the soil is very rich still. You will see some hay in here in the dirt, and you will see pieces of cardboard because that's what I used at the bottom of my dirt pile last year when I made my beds. Between the tree compost and this compost, there was quite a bit of worms. Some of the worms are very large. So you can see how rich your soil is. In this area where I'm getting my soil from, I grew beans in last year and tomatoes. There should be a good amount of nitrogen in this soil. After I get the dirt out of the beds where I'm getting everything from, let me move the camera over here a little bit. I have to sweep it out. So you can see it's a lot of work, and this is why it's going to take me an awful lot of time to get everything done. See, look how rich the soil is. That's why I definitely wanted to reuse it all. Surprisingly, there's still a lot of large pieces of cardboard left after this being in the ground for a year. My garden was built on concrete slab, but I noticed that with all the watering it was ruining the concrete. So that's one reason why I wanted to do the IBC totes. It's not just about saving money, but it's also about saving the investment I have of this concrete area. So you'll hear me scraping the concrete. As I'm digging the dirt out. So it's not an easy task. Some people say I should have hired somebody to do it for me. But my dad always taught me, you always try to see what you can do yourself. And I'm a firm believer in that as well. So, since I have a lot more to fill, I'm not going to keep you all on, but just wanted to make sure that you could see what's going on with this. And it's a lot of work, but it's really, really beneficial. And I just ask that you like, subscribe, and follow for more information on wicking beds. Again, this is Cynthia with Backcourt Garden. Thank you.